Clarity Clinical Solutions.
Welcome to this educational module on vendor management in clinical research. As clinical trials grow in complexity and geographic scope, sponsors increasingly rely on external vendors to conduct critical study activities. Effective vendor management ensures that contract research organizations, central laboratories, imaging core labs, electronic data capture providers, and other service partners deliver high-quality work on time and within budget. This module covers vendor selection, contracting, oversight, performance monitoring, and risk management across the clinical trial vendor lifecycle. Clinical trials engage numerous vendor types. Full-service CROs provide comprehensive trial management including site selection, monitoring, data management, and reporting. Functional service providers offer specialized capabilities such as biometrics, medical writing, or pharmacovigilance. Central laboratories handle specimen processing and analysis with standardized reference ranges. Imaging core labs provide centralized MRI, CT, and PET scan reading. Other vendors include interactive response technology providers for randomization and drug supply management, electronic clinical outcome assessment providers, clinical trial supply and logistics companies, and patient recruitment specialists. Each requires tailored oversight. Vendor selection begins with a thorough qualification process. A request for information gathers capability documentation, financial statements, quality certifications, and client references. A subsequent request for proposal solicits detailed bids against the study protocol with defined scope of work. Site visits assess facilities, standard operating procedures, training records, and quality management systems. Key qualification criteria include relevant therapeutic experience, geographic coverage, technology infrastructure, staffing capacity, financial stability, and regulatory inspection history. A formal vendor qualification checklist ensures consistent evaluation across candidates and supports audit trail requirements. A detailed scope of work is the foundation of successful vendor partnerships. The scope document must clearly define all deliverables, acceptance criteria, timing, and dependencies between vendor activities and sponsor responsibilities. Service-level agreements specify performance metrics including turnaround times, quality thresholds such as data query rates and error rates, and reporting cadences. Work order procedures govern changes to the agreed scope, with cost and timeline implications documented and approved. Well-defined scopes reduce disputes, facilitate performance measurement, and provide clear accountability for both parties throughout the study. Effective vendor oversight requires a structured governance plan. A joint governance committee with representatives from sponsor and vendor leadership meets regularly to review performance, address escalations, and guide strategic decisions. Day-to-day operational management follows defined communication protocols specifying meeting frequency, reporting templates, escalation paths, and decision rights. The oversight plan should identify key risks specific to the vendor's scope and define monitoring activities. Oversight intensity should be proportionate to risk, with higher risk activities receiving more frequent and detailed review. Documentation of all oversight activities supports regulatory inspection readiness. Quantitative key performance indicators enable objective vendor assessment. Common KPIs for CROs include site activation cycle time, enrollment rate relative to target, data entry timeliness, query resolution time, and monitoring visit report timeliness. For central laboratories, KPIs include specimen processing turnaround time, missing specimen rate, and result reporting accuracy. Quality metrics include protocol deviation rates, audit findings, and corrective action effectiveness. Leading indicators focusing on process compliance provide early warning of potential quality issues before they affect study outcomes. Balanced scorecards track multiple dimensions including quality, timeliness, cost, and relationship. Sponsors retain ultimate responsibility for trial quality and must ensure vendor compliance with good clinical practice, applicable regulations, and the protocol. Routine quality oversight includes review of vendor standard operating procedures, training records, and electronic system validation documentation. For CROs and routine audits assess vendor performance against contractual and regulatory requirements. Audit scope should cover critical processes such as data management, safety reporting, and quality control procedures. Audit findings require documented corrective and preventive action plans with defined timelines. A qualified vendor audit program is a regulatory expectation and supports sponsor due diligence. Risk-based vendor oversight aligns monitoring intensity with the level of risk each vendor presents. Risk assessment considers the criticality of vendor services to patient safety and data integrity, vendor performance history, complexity of vendor processes, and the vendor's quality management system maturity. Higher-risk vendors receive more frequent oversight, including site visits, detailed data reviews, and senior management engagement. Lower-risk vendors may be managed through exception-based reporting and periodic performance reviews. The oversight plan should be dynamic, adjusting monitoring intensity based on accumulating performance data and emerging risk signals throughout the trial. Clinical trials are dynamic, requiring robust change control processes for vendor scope modifications. Proposed changes should be assessed for cost, timeline, quality, and regulatory impact before approval. A formal change order process with appropriate authorization levels ensures all scope changes are documented, approved, and communicated. Performance issues require systematic management, including issue identification, root cause analysis, corrective action implementation, and effectiveness verification. Escalation procedures define thresholds for escalating issues to senior management when performance falls below acceptable levels. Persistent underperformance may require transition planning to alternative vendors. Vendor technology systems must integrate effectively with sponsor platforms. Data transfer agreements specify file formats, transfer protocols, frequency, security requirements, and validation procedures for electronic data exchanges. System integration testing confirms end-to-end data flow before live use. User access management ensures appropriate controls for vendor staff accessing sponsor systems. Business continuity planning addresses vendor system outages with backup procedures. Technology qualification documentation, including system validation records and audit trail reviews, provides evidence of data integrity for regulatory inspection. Data ownership and transition provisions protect sponsor data at contract conclusion. Beyond transactional oversight, effective vendor management builds strategic partnerships. Strategic vendors receive investment in relationship building through regular business reviews, joint process improvement initiatives, and innovation partnerships. Relationship health assessments using structured surveys measure communication effectiveness, responsiveness, and collaboration quality. Fair contracting practices, including reasonable payment terms and respect for vendor intellectual property, foster mutual trust. Sponsors that treat vendors as partners rather than service providers achieve better performance on quality, cost, and innovation metrics. Long-term relationships reduce onboarding costs and improve institutional knowledge retention across trials. Regulatory guidance clearly establishes sponsor accountability for vendor performance. ICH GCPE 6 Section 5.2 states that sponsors may delegate trial-related duties to CROs but retain ultimate responsibility for trial conduct and data quality. FDA guidance on oversight of clinical investigations expects sponsors to provide adequate oversight of CROs and maintain documentation of oversight activities. EMA guidance emphasizes risk-proportionate monitoring and inspection readiness of vendor records. Regulatory inspectors routinely review vendor oversight documentation during sponsor inspections, including meeting minutes, audit reports, and performance metrics. Inadequate vendor oversight can result in regulatory findings and data reliability concerns. Specialized technology platforms support vendor management activities. Vendor management systems centralize qualification documentation, contract records, insurance certificates, and performance metrics in a searchable repository. Collaboration platforms facilitate document sharing, issue tracking, and real-time communication between sponsor and vendor teams. Clinical trial management systems provide vendor performance dashboards integrating enrollment, data entry, and query metrics. Electronic trial master file systems document vendor oversight activities in an inspection-ready format. Technology investments should be evaluated for usability, integration capability, data security, and return on investment in reduced administrative burden. In summary, effective vendor management begins with rigorous qualification and clear scope definition, supported by structured governance, risk-based oversight, and measurable performance metrics. Sponsors should view key vendors as strategic partners, investing in relationship management and joint process improvement. Robust change control and issue management processes prevent scope creep and address performance problems early. Adequate documentation of oversight activities satisfies regulatory expectations and supports inspection readiness. Organizations that excel at vendor management achieve faster trial execution, higher data quality, and stronger regulatory outcomes across their clinical development portfolios.